Okay, so welcome to chapter 8 of our course, where we're going to be learning about the different inbuilt array methods in JavaScript, different methods we can use on arrays. So over the next few tutorials, we'll learn about some of the different methods such as map, reduce, filter, etc. But first I want to show you the for each method. So we've seen previously how we can iterate over an array. Maybe we have an array of numbers, we'll say let grades be equal to, and just throw in some numbers here, okay? So we've seen previously that, well, first of all, 15 is a very low grade. We're good teachers, so no one got below 40. So we've seen previously how we can use a for loop to iterate over an array. All we need to do is we use the for keyword. We have some sort of counter variable. We'll say let I be equal to 1. We're going to run our loop while some condition is true. We'll say while I is less than grades, the array dot length. Of course, after each iteration, you want to increment I, your counter variable, to avoid being stuck in an infinite loop. And all you need to do is just console.log out grades, the array we're iterating over, at index I. Okay, so the first time our code runs, we're going to run while grades is at index 0. Okay, so if you were to log out to the console, let me just show you this. Console.log grades at index 0, what's going to happen is you're going to log out at 45. Grades at index 1 then will be 60. Grades at index 2 will be 89, etc. So what we can do is use a for loop to iterate over each element of the array. So if we save and refresh, we see here we get our different elements of the array, those values logged out to the console. But there's a different way you can do this. So let me just comment that out, okay, and just refresh, get our console empty. Awesome. What you can do is you can actually use the inbuilt for each method. So what you do is you take the array, whatever array you want to iterate over, you type out the array name, then what you do is you access whatever inbuilt method you're looking to do. So it is the for each method. And we know we need to use parentheses to call or invoke it. And then what you do is you actually need to pass in what's known as a callback function. So you're going to pass in a function, okay, and this function is going to be, so you're going to pass in a function as an argument, and this function is going to essentially run or fire for each element in the array. People get very intimidated by the term callback function, but I'll show you the syntax. Once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty straightforward. All you need to do is just say grades dot for each, okay, so for each, we have our parentheses, and all you need to do then is just pass in a function. And what's going to happen with the function is it's going to run for each grade in the grades array. Okay, so all we need to do is just say console.log grade. Okay, typically people do this with an arrow function, so I'll show you the syntax for that as well. But now what's going to happen is if we refresh our page, we see here we've actually logged out all of the different grades inside of our array. So we actually didn't need to write a for loop and have a counter variable and increment over, etc. All we did was we just wrote out the array name, used dot notation to access the for each method, and we passed in a function. And this function is going to fire or run for each element of the array. So what we do is we just define each item that we're iterating over. So I called it grade. So do you know the way previously we pass in an argument to a function, we define a parameter, and then you just reference that within the function? It's the same concept. So grade, basically, grade is the parameter, or it's a reference to each one of these, and it's going to fire, the function's going to fire it for each element of the array. So you notice here, I don't know how many elements are in the array. If we were to add 85, for example, at the end, if I save and refresh, we're also going to see 85 logged out to the console. The key point is that with the for each method, when you pass in the function, this callback function is going to run or fire for each element in the array. Now, what you can do as well is you don't need to do the function keyword. You can just pass in an arrow function. So you can have grade like so, and then just do your little equal sign chevron. Okay, so that will still work, and this is very popular syntax. So I know it looks a bit weird the first time you see it, but what we're doing is on our grades array, so it's grades dot for each, we have our opening parentheses and our closing parentheses, and what we're doing is we're actually passing in a function we're passing in a function. It's a callback function. It's going to fire for each element of the array. We're passing that into the inbuilt for each method. And all we're doing is for each grade in the array, we are simply logging out the grade to the console. One thing to note as well is that because there's only one argument passed in, you could, if you wanted, actually just delete the parentheses around that, and that should still work if we don't get an error, and that still works. For the remainder of this chapter, I won't actually be doing that syntax. I think it's a bit confusing, intimidating when you first see it. This is a beginner's JavaScript course, so I'm going to use basically the double parentheses there to start, because really this is the opening parentheses for the for each method, and then of course we can see here clearly that we're just passing in a function, and that is the grade argument that's been passed in. And remember, grade, it's really just a reference to each item or element in our grades array up here. Awesome. So that is the for each method in JavaScript. It can be used to iterate over an array of values, and it expects to receive a function passed in as an argument. And you don't have to do just console.log. You could do something more interesting if you wanted. Maybe, for example, you're going to take each grade and just do something with it. Maybe manipulate the numbers, add on 10% or something like that. Okay, that's awesome. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Hi everyone, and welcome back. In this tutorial, we're going to cover the inbuilt map method in JavaScript. The map method allows us to iterate over an array of values. So it can be an array of strings, an array of numbers, etc. We can do something and then push those new elements or values into a new array. So that's what we're going to do in this tutorial. So what I've done is I've created an array called prices, and I've just assigned it some various numbers here. And our boss wants us to double the prices, so that's what we have to do. But what I can do is create a new array. I can say let new prices, or higher prices, be equal to prices, the original array up here, but using dot notation, I'm going to access the inbuilt map method in JavaScript. And what we need to do is we need to pass in a callback function. The callback function is essentially going to fire or run for each element in the original array. So it's going to run 5 times. So we need to get a reference to each element or value in the original array. And I'm going to get a reference to it by saying price. So we saw previously with functions how when we're passing in an argument, we have to define a parameter, and then we can get a reference to that parameter inside of the code block for the function. Callback function, I don't say it's quite similar, but really price here is just a reference to each element in the original array that we're iterating over. So what we can do is just run our arrow function and run some code. So what are we looking to do? Well, what we can do is we can just return each price. Okay, so price is just a reference to each element in the original array. We'll return that, but double it by timesing it by 2. So if I just console.log out array 1, so before the price hike, what we're going to see is prices. Let me just prove this to you. So the original array, we've 20, 80, 15, 90, and 500. But in the new array, array 2, if I now log out the array called new prices, what we're going to see is the prices have doubled. Okay, so if I just refresh, so you see here, array 1, we have those values, and array 2, we have those values. Okay, so we've essentially doubled the prices. And the key point to note is that the map method is very useful. It can be used, on strings, it can be used on numbers, etc. But one other thing as well is just going back to arrow functions, because we've only defined one parameter here inside of the parentheses, you can actually just delete that and the code will still work. Okay, so if I just refresh, it still works. And what you'll note as well is that the map method is a non-destructive array. It doesn't alter the values of the original array. Rather, we do something and then push those values into a new array. So the original array, array 1 or prices, those original values, the elements there have not been altered, but the new array is our array with the new values. So the map method is very useful. We'll work again with this in the next tutorial. We'll cover strings and just get some more practice. Map is one of my favorite methods to use with arrays, definitely worth knowing. So I'll see you in the next tutorial. Okay, in this tutorial, we're going to use the map method to iterate over an array of elements, and those elements will all be of type string. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new array. We'll say let cities be equal to, and we're just going to put in a few Australian cities here. So we'll say Melbourne, we'll say Sydney, we'll say Perth. I can spell Adelaide, so we'll say Brisbane instead. Okay, and what I want to do is use the map method to iterate over each element in this array called cities and just convert each of these cities to be uppercase. Okay, so we'll call or invoke the toUpperCase method. So what we can do is we can create a new array. We'll say cities uppercase or something like that, and we're going to assign that the value of cities, okay, our original array. But what we're going to do is we're going to call or invoke the inbuilt map method. So with the map method, what we need to do is we need to pass in a callback function, a function that's going to fire for each element of this array. So we're going to pass in our function here, like so. And what we're going to do then is just get a reference to each element in the array. So how we refer to that is an item, okay? So each time the map method runs for each item, so the first time it iterates over the array, the item will be Melbourne, then Sydney, then Perth, then Brisbane. But we don't need to call it item, okay? What we can do is, because item is just a placeholder, we can call it whatever we want, so we'll just call it city, okay? So what I want to do then is just return whatever city we're on, but call or invoke the toUpperCase method in JavaScript. And now what's going to happen is, if I was to log out to the console the new array of cities uppercase, what we'll find is that we have our cities, but they are all in uppercase. So if I save and refresh and go here, we see here we get our cities all in capital letters. Okay, awesome. So once again, that is the map method in JavaScript. We can use the map method to iterate over an array of values, an array of elements, etc., and then do something. What it does is it can essentially perform some sort of operation, in this case change every item in the array to be uppercase, and we return that and then store that in our new array. Okay, awesome. I'll see you in the next one. Okay, don't hate me, but we're going to be talking about the map method again. Here's what I want you to do in this tutorial. Rather than me telling, teaching, I'm going to give you an assignment. Firstly, I want you to create an array of heroes. Okay, we use our DC heroes, so Batman, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, etc. So create an array of heroes. Then what I want you to do is I want you to use the map method to essentially iterate over the original array. So remember, to use the map method on the original array, you just take whatever array it is, the array name, and call or invoke the map method. You will need to use the return keyword. Don't forget that. What I want you to do is for each item in the array, so each item will essentially be a hero, okay? What I want you to do is just basically call or invoke the toUpperCase method, okay? And store that in a new array, and the new array can just be called heroes2, okay? So that's what I want us to do, and then of course you can just log out to the console, okay? So please take a moment just to get more practice with the map method. Please pause the video and try to do that yourself, otherwise you can watch along with myself. So we're going to say let heroes be equal to, and we'll go in order of power really, so we'll have Superman first, Wonder Woman. Bruce doesn't actually have any powers, but he's awesome. We've got Robin, we've got Aquaman, and there are definitely other heroes as well, but that's enough for now. Okay, so we've created our array of heroes. Let's just log them out to the console. So console.log heroes. Okay, if I just refresh Google Chrome, we see here our array of heroes. So we've seen arrays before, that's awesome. Now what I want to do is, instead of logging the heroes out to the console, let's call or invoke the map method on heroes, iterate over each element of the original array, convert the text to be uppercase, and log out the new array. So what we can do is we can just say heroes, so the array name, use dot notation to access the map method. It is a method, so we have our parentheses. So this method is expecting to receive a callback function, a function that's going to fire for each element inside of the original array. So remember, the function here is just the code we write. Like we saw previously how we could take a number and double it. In this case, we're working with an array of string elements, so we're going to convert them all to be uppercase. So the function is going to fire for each element in the original array. Now, we need to get a reference to each item in the original array. Okay, so we can say item, but because they're heroes, we'll just say hero. And all we want to do is just return each hero in the original array, but call or invoke the two uppercase methods. So what the map method will do is essentially iterate over each element in the original array for us. So the first time the map method runs, it says, okay, hero, so hero, the first iteration is Superman. So it's going to return hero, Superman, dot to uppercase, okay? The second time it runs, it's going to run Wonder Woman. It's going to iterate over Wonder Woman, her value, but it's going to change the text to be uppercase and then return that. And what it is doing, each time we iterate over these elements in the original array, it's performing some code, in this case converting them to uppercase, but it is essentially storing them in a new array. So what we can do then is just say let heroes2 be equal to our original array, but what we're doing is we're mapping over and returning each hero. So the key point is that the map method iterates over each element of the original array. We do something, run some code. In this case, in this situation, we convert to uppercase, and then we store that in our new array. So now, if we console.log out, thank you Visual Studio Code for correcting my spell mistake. If we log out the original array again, okay, we have our array of heroes. But we used the map method to iterate over each element of the array, convert the text to be uppercase, and then return that to us and store it in the new array. So now what we get is our new array. It's the same heroes, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Robin, but they're all in uppercase. So the first time the map method runs, it takes Superman, converts it to uppercase and stores it in our new array. The second time the map method runs, it iterates over Wonder Woman as an element in the array, converts to uppercase, Batman, Robin, Aquaman, etc. Okay, awesome. So guys, that is the map method in JavaScript. Really important method. I hope you enjoyed the last few tutorials. Sorry we did 3 different examples, but it's just so important, so I really hope you understand it now. It's a very powerful method to use in JavaScript. We'll talk about the filter method now in the next tutorial, so I'll see you then. Okay, so in this tutorial we're going to cover a pretty cool inbuilt method in JavaScript, and that is the filter method. So how the filter method works essentially is, maybe there's some condition you're testing out for, whether a grade, for example, is greater than 50, whether a number is even or odd. What you can do is use the filter method to iterate over the elements in an array, check the values for something, and this returns true or false based on the condition that you're testing for. Anything which passes the test is then pushed into the new array. So essentially what it does is it iterates over an array of values, and it will return, as I say, true or false based on that condition. And anything which basically meets the criteria is pushed into the new array. So it's probably best if we code this out just so you can see it conceptually, like in practice, rather than just talking about it conceptually. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an array called grades. And what we're going to do is basically, we're going to pretend the economy is booming, we're at full employment, and we're going to hire any person with a grade of 50% or more, okay? So that's what we're going to do. So we go into this college and they give us a list of grades. So the first person got 45, we have a 55, a 70, an 80, a 91, 44, we'd have a 42, 100, well that was good, and we're going to have a 55, okay? Another 55. So what we want to do essentially is iterate over each element in the array using the filter method, This will return true or false and basically push whatever has passed our criteria into the new array. So what we're going to do is we're going to say we're going to call them hired grades. So these are going to be the grades of whoever passed, okay? And what we're going to do is assign that the value of grades, our array up here, dot filter, okay? Now with the filter method, we need to pass in a function as an argument. It's going to be a callback function. And this function is going to run for every element in the original array. And what we want to do is just get a reference to each element in the original array, each item, and I'm going to call them grade. Okay, so the first time filter runs, it's going to check to see, 45 has it met our condition, 55, 70, etc. So what's our condition going to be? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to return, okay, whatever grade we're iterating over, we're going to return that and store it into the hired grades array if the grade we're iterating over, the elements in this array here, is greater than or equal to 50. So the filter method is going to do that for us, okay? So basically, the first time the filter method starts iterating over, it's going to check, it's going to say, okay, is 45 greater than or equal to 50? Well, that's going to be false, so we're not going to push into the new array. So 45, is that greater than or equal to 50? That's false. So 45 is not pushed into our new array called hired grades. 55, then we're going to do the check. Is 55, that element in this array, greater than or equal to 50? Well, that actually evaluates to true. So then what we do is we push 55 into the new array. 70, is 70 greater than or equal to 50? Yes, it is. So we should end up doing this for each element of the array. So 70 is greater than 50, that returns true. Therefore 70 is pushed into the new array. 80, is 80 greater than or equal to 50? That is true. So 80 is now pushed into the new array. 91, is 91 greater than or equal to 50? Yes, it is. So that returns true as well. So we've got true, 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 and true. Okay, so now 91 is pushed in. So we got a false, true, 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 true. Then we check to see, is 44 greater than or equal to 50? That actually returns false. So 44 is not pushed into the new array. 42, again, 42 is not greater than or equal to 50. It's less than 50, so that evaluates to false. 42 is therefore not pushed into the new array. We then check to see for 155. They are both going to meet our condition. 100 is greater than or equal to 50. That evaluates to true. So therefore, 100 is pushed in. And lastly, 55, is 55 greater than or equal to 50? Yes, it is. So that returns true, and therefore that element in this array, 55, is pushed into the new array. Okay, so what we should see here is candidates who got scores of 45, 44, and 42 are not hired, unfortunately, but these 4 candidates here and those 2 candidates there. So it looks like 6 candidates are going to get hired, okay? So just to prove that to you, if we just console.log out the grades, so we'll say all grades, that's just a string, and just log out the console the grades, so the original array. We see here we get all of our grades, but now we've used the filter method to filter over the grades and return to us only those grades that meet a certain condition. So now, this feels like an episode of Squid Game, doesn't it? Like who's been eliminated? So we have the hired grades, so the people who got the jobs. And now let's iterate over our array that we called hired grades, so the people who got the jobs. So if I now save and refresh, we see here that we hired 6 people out of the class of 9, 55, 70, 80, 91, 155. Every grade that was basically greater than or equal to 50. Okay, so that's awesome. Maybe the following year, actually, we get a bit stricter and we decide to increase that to be 60. Well, this person and that person are not going to be hired because now 55 is not greater than or equal to 60, so that evaluate to false. So they're actually now not hired. And similarly, the last candidate there, 55 is not greater than or equal to 60. That's false, so therefore they're not hired. So if we save and refresh, we've now changed the criteria, and now we see here we only hire 4 candidates. Okay, that's awesome. So that is the filter method in JavaScript, an inbuilt method in JavaScript. And basically what it does is it iterates over the elements or the values in an array, and it performs some sort of check for you, whatever check you want. And based on your condition that you're evaluating for, it will essentially return true or false. Whatever evaluates to true will be pushed into our new array, and whatever evaluates to false will not be pushed into our new array. Also, the filter method is a non-destructive method. It doesn't alter the original array at all. What it does simply is it just checks to see if your condition has been met. Is it true or false? If it's true, push it into the new array, the element we're iterating over, and if it's false, don't push it into the new array. Okay, that's awesome. That's the filter method in JavaScript. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Okay, welcome back. In this tutorial, we're going to get a little bit more practice with the filter method. What I want you to do is I want you to create an array of numbers and just put some numbers into it. And what I want you to do is use the filter method to push all of the even numbers into a new array. So what we're going to do is essentially use the filter method to iterate over an array of numbers and check to see what numbers are even and basically push those into a new array. So we can create an array called numbers. I'll just write some numbers. I'll say 6, 10, 1, 104, 7, 8, 9. We'll do a 50, a 60, 44, 16, 8, 17. Okay? So we just have an array of numbers. So what I want to do is basically iterate over the array and push all of the even numbers into a new array. So pause the video and see if you can do that. So how you can do that is as follows. We can create a variable, we'll say let even numbers be equal to, and we'll use the filter method on the numbers array to iterate over each element of that array and do a check. And we will return every number whereby that number mod 2 is strictly equal to 0. We've seen that before. That is how we can check to see if a number is an even number. So what we'll do is we'll say let even numbers be equal to, and it's going to be equal to our array of numbers, but we're going to invoke the filter method by saying .filter. And we know the filter method is expecting to receive a callback function passed in as an argument, and the callback function is going to fire or run for each element in this array. So each element, we've got to get a reference to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to call that number, okay? And what do we want to do? Well, what we want to do is for each number in the original array, we want to return that number or push it into a new array depending on some condition. And that condition will be if the filter method is iterating over a number whereby that number mod 2 is strictly equal to 0. So we've seen this before. This is going to check to see if the number is even. So for example, 6 mod 2 divides in evenly, there's nothing left over. So 6 mod is 2. 6 divides in evenly to 2, divides in 3 times, so there's 0 left over. Therefore 6 is an even number, okay? 10 will be the same. 10 mod 2, 10 divides in basically 5 times, so basically there's nothing left over, so we also know that 10 is an even number. 1, however, won't divide in evenly. It doesn't even divide in. There's 1 left over, so therefore 1 is an odd number, okay? So now what we can do is just log out to the console.log. We'll say even numbers array. And what are the values? Well, comma separate, we're going to have our even numbers. So if I save and refresh, we see here we get our array of even numbers only. Okay, awesome. So that is how you can use the filter method to iterate over an array of numbers and essentially check to see what numbers are even and then push those into a new array. If you wanted to do the same to check for odd numbers, all you'd have to do is check if the number mod 2 was equal to 1, therefore we know it's an odd number. So to prove that to you, if I just comment that code out, what we can do is we can then check for the odd numbers. So what we'll do now is we'll say let odd numbers be equal to our numbers array dot filter. We're going to pass in our function here. Okay, and our callback function. And what we're going to do is call each number, each item or element of the array that we're iterating over. We're going to get a reference to that by just calling it number. You could even call it element as well if you wanted, or item. It's up to you. We'll call it item, I guess. Actually, no, we'll call it number. Apologies. And what we're going to do is we're going to return each number that we're iterating over in this original array, provided some condition is true. And what we want to do is you want to check that the number mod 2 basically has a 1 left over. So that will return all of the odd numbers, okay? So for example, 6 mod 2 is 0, so an even number won't be added to our odd numbers array. 10 mod 2, well 10 divides an even into 2 5 times. There's nothing left over. Where 1 is an odd number, that'll go into our odd numbers array. So to prove that to you, if I just say console.log odd numbers, what we get now is our odd numbers array. So I'll just say comma separate and just say odd numbers array. So basically, it looks like most of the numbers were actually even. So what we can do is we can just uncomment that out. Sorry, let's try it again. Let's do both. If I, hang on. Oops. That normally works for me. Weird. Okay, that's not uncommenting out. Please bear with me. Try again. Oops. Oh, this is a disaster. There we go. Sorry, I was actually pressing the right one. I don't know what happened there. Okay, so essentially, guys, that is how we can use the filter method to iterate over an array of numbers. And basically what we can do is do a check. So return all of the even numbers and push those into an even numbers array, or return all of the odd numbers and push those into an odd numbers array. Okay, so that's awesome. That was just a bit more practice with the filter method in JavaScript. So what you can see here is we have our original array of all of these numbers. And what we've done is, using the filter method, we've pushed all the even numbers into the even numbers array and all of the odd numbers into the odd numbers array. So once again, the filter method can be used to iterate over all of the values or elements in an array. It will return true or false based on some condition, and whatever evaluates to true, or anything that passes that test, our test that we set will be pushed into the new array. Okay, that's awesome. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Hi everyone and welcome back. Okay, in this tutorial what we're going to do is we're going to iterate over an array of objects depending on some criteria. So what we're going to do is we're going to filter and get back all of the heroes who have a net worth of, let's say, $7,000 or more. So Diana's been around a while, so she actually has a lot of wealth. Bruce Wayne's probably worth about 8 billion. I don't even know if that's 800 million or 8 billion, but it's a lot. And Dick Grayson, in fairness to him, is actually a savvy investor, so he actually has $250,000 US saved. Okay, awesome. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use the filter method to iterate over our array of clients, and remember it's an array of objects because it's an array, but we've got our Clark Kent object, our Diana Prince object, our Bruce Wayne, and our awesome Dick Grayson. Okay, so what we want to do is just get back any of these individuals who have a net worth of $7,000 or more. Okay, maybe we're offering them a free trade if we are a stockbroker, or we're going to give them a gift voucher for Christmas because, you know, they mean a lot to us as clients, except for Clark Kent. So what we'll do is we'll say let wealthy clients be equal to, I'll tell you what, we'll search for anyone with a net worth of over 200,000 because, like, yeah, that's what we'll do. So how do we use the filter method? Well, what we can do is we can say our wealthy clients, our new array is going to be equal to clients.filter, and we know we need to pass in a callback function here that's going to fire for each item or object in the array. And all we want to do is basically just return, okay? And what we want to do is, inside of the callback function, just pass in a reference to each object that we're iterating over. In this case, it is going to be a client. So what we want to do is we want to return that client. We want to get true and push this data, the item that we're iterating over, into the new array if the client's dot assets is greater than or equal to, we'll say $200,000. Okay. Now, if I was to log out the original array, so we'll say all clients. Let's try that again. All clients. If I just log out clients to the console, okay, we're going to see an array of objects. We're going to have Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and Robin, okay? Although Robin technically became another hero later on. Okay, so we have our all clients, and we have here our various clients / heroes. But watch what happens when I then log out to the console our new array. We've called that the new clients, or wealthy clients. And if I log out now, wealthy clients, that array, what we're going to find is that we're only going to have 3 individuals in our new clients. So the difference is, in the first array we had 4 people. In this new array of objects we only have 3 people. So Clark Kent did not make the cut. The others are quite wealthy individuals. Clark Kent doesn't get paid a whole lot at the newspaper, okay? So what we did essentially was we created an array. It is an array of objects. So we have our opening and closing square bracket there because it's an array. We have the Clark Kent object, the Diana Prince object, the Bruce Wayne object, and the Dick Grayson object. And each object has key value pairs. They have name, assets, address, okay? But what we did was we used the filter method to filter over the clients, because we said clients dot filter, and we pass in this callback function that's going to fire. So the callback function here, it's going to fire a run for each object or item in the array. And what we did was, because client is just a reference to each one of those, so that's client the first time the filter method iterates over the array. That's client, that's a client, and that's a client. And what we did was we accessed the client.assets and performed some sort of test. So what happens is, if the object or the hero or the client, if the object or the client had assets that were basically greater than $200,000, basically what we want to get is we want to return true and then push that into our wealthy clients array. So the first time the filter method iterates over clients, it says, okay, does the first object have assets greater than or equal to 200,000? That evaluates actually to false. So no, Clark Kent is not pushed into the new array. The test here will be true. Diana's quite rich. Bruce is obviously true. He passed the condition. And Dick Gray went long the US equity markets years ago. So he's also quite wealthy. And basically what happens is these 3 objects, the heroes or the clients, get pushed into the new array, but Superman or Clark Kent does not. Key point about this tutorial really is that you can also use the filter method to iterate over an array of objects, and depending on whatever condition you're looking out for, you can push certain objects from an array into a new array, and alternatively you don't have to if whatever object doesn't meet the criteria, it's not pushed in. Okay, so guys, that is the filter method once again, but we saw the filter method now where we could use it to iterate over an array of objects. So yeah, that's awesome. Very useful as well when you start working with JSON and talking to an API. Typically you will get data back in the form of an array of objects. We'll be speaking about that later on in the course, but I'll leave that tutorial here for now. Awesome, thank you. I'll see you in the next one. Okay, we are live once again talking about the filter method in JavaScript. Okay, so in this tutorial what we're going to do is once again cover the filter method. What I've done is I've created a variable called close and assigned that the value of an array, but the array contains objects, so it is an array of objects. And what I want to do is create a fictional situation whereby we're working for an e-commerce store, maybe Amazon or Shopify or one of the big ones, and it's basically the middle of winter, so all of our summer products are not selling, okay? So we've put them all on sale. So we've got the summer shorts, you see here on sale has a boolean of true. The aviators, no one really wants to spend $500 in aviators during winter, so that's also on sale. The winter items, such as the winter chocolates, winter scarf, are not on sale, okay? They're doing quite well. It's very cold and dark. Everyone wants to buy chocolates. They want to buy a scarf, and a lot of really nice parents want to buy, a scarf, glove, and hat for their kids or for their brothers and sisters or whatever. So everything on sale is basically a summer item. The summer sunblock, the summer shorts, etc. So our boss wants us to use the filter method to just come back and tell him what items are on sale, just so he or she can see what is in stock. I should have maybe put quantity in stock as well, but it's fine. So what we're going to do is use the filter method. And just before we get into this, remember the filter method can also be used, for example, by streaming platforms. If you're ever on Disney Plus or Amazon Prime or Netflix and you're typing in some sort of cool movie you want to watch, as you're typing those in, there's an event listener essentially filtering out the results you're not looking for, or filtering the ones you are looking for, returning true, and then populating the page. Okay, so remember the filter method will return true or false for each item that you're iterating over, depending on the condition you're looking for. And in our case, we want to look out for the summer items. So what we can do is create a variable. We'll say let. You could say items on sale or on sale items. We could say items on sale. Okay. Or close on sale. Well, we got chocolate, so it's items. And what we can do is on the close, we do sell chocolates as well. So we're going to call that items instead. No, actually, I apologize. We're going to call that close. So what we're going to do, or products. Yeah, we'll call it products. Apologies. So we'll just say products. So what we're going to do is items on sale. We're going to iterate over our products array. So on the products array, an array of objects, we're going to use dot notation to access the inbuilt filter method in JavaScript. It is a method, so it has parentheses. And what it is expecting is to receive a callback function, at least one parameter to be passed in. So we're going to pass in here a callback function, okay? And that callback function is going to fire or run for each item inside of our array, okay? So what I'm going to do is just get a reference to each one by calling it item. You could also call it product as well if you wanted. So we can say product. And what we want to do is we want to return each product into the items on sale array, depending on some condition being true. So what I want to do is I want to check to see if the product we're iterating over is essentially on sale. Okay, so what's on sale? Well, the summer shorts are on sale. So the first time the filter method iterates over the array of objects, it's going to check this object first. It's going to check to see if the product that we're iterating over is on sale. This one is on sale, so that will evaluate to true. So that will be returned to us and stored inside of the new array called items on sale. So we're going to store in it the summer shorts because that will return true. Aviators, they're also on sale. So the aviator is going to be put in. Aviators. The winter chocolates are not on sale. So the filter method will return false for this one. Therefore, winter chocolates will not be pushed into our new array called items on sale. The winter scarf, similarly, is also not on sale. On sale is set to false. That property has a Boolean value of false. Therefore, it will not meet our condition. It's not on sale, so it will not be returned to us and therefore pushed into the new array. The summer sunblock, well, is it on sale? Yes, it is, and that's the condition we're looking for. So remember, when we're saying return product on sale, on this iteration, this is the product. Is it on sale? Yes, it is. That evaluates, in this case, to true. So therefore, we push the summer sunblock into our new array. And then lastly, this package here is not on sale, so that is not pushed in to the new array. So what I can do now is just console.log out the original array for you. So if I just say console.log products, so we'll just call them maybe, all products or something. Let's say all products, and the string there, and comma separate. So if I log out the string all products and then our products array of objects, we should get all of the products. That's awesome. But now watch what happens when I just log out the items on sale. So we'll say on sale items. That's just a string. And now let's log out our items on sale array. And remember, the items on sale array, what we did was we used the filter method to iterate over each product, essentially an object, and check to see whether it was on sale or not. If the on sale had a Boolean of true, it was pushed into our new array. If it had a non-sale Boolean value of false, it was not. So if now I save and refresh, we get all products on sale, like so, but the items on sale are just the summer products because we were looking out to see if they were on sale, if that had a Boolean value of true. That was our condition. That's what we were checking for. Was the on sale property, did it have a Boolean value of true? And if it was, we wanted to return that and then store it in the items on sale. So it's a very useful method, the inbuilt filter method in JavaScript. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one. Okay, so in this tutorial, I'm going to be introducing you to the reduce method in JavaScript. So what the reduce method does essentially, it actually returns just a single value. What it does is essentially you can call or invoke the reduce method on an array of values. You must pass in a callback function as an argument, and the callback function will have two parameters, okay? It will have the accumulator or the total and the item that we are iterating over. So what it can be used for is, let's imagine a fictional situation. We all love the movie Inception, where Leonardo DiCaprio goes in and says to Michael Caine, "Give me your best student." Or in the same way, tech giants will go into a university and try hire the candidates perhaps with good personalities and resumes and portfolios, but also perhaps the highest grades as well. So what we want to do is we're going to create an array of grades. We'll put some numbers into it, and what we're going to do is we're going to check to see how many students got a particular grade or higher, okay? And we can use the reduce method to do that. So let's create an array. We'll say let grades be equal to, and I'll just put in some values. We'll do a 70, a 65, a 55, a 40, an 85, that's quite high, a 90, a 55, a 40, 45, 75, let's do a 66, and a 12. Someone went out the night before the exam and was hungover. They'll have to repeat in August, but they'll do quite well the next time. Okay. What we want to do is we want to find out how many people or candidates or students got a grade, okay, of 70% or higher. So we know we can check for that by saying greater than or equal to 70. Well, using the human eye, that's one student. They didn't get over 70, neither did they. 40, no. 85, yeah, that's 2. 90 is 3. And then 75 is 4. So 4 is not a lot. Let's add one more student at the end who did quite well. They got 73. So we can see here that 5 students got a grade of 70% or higher. But how could we write code to find this out? Well, what we could do is find the total number of students who met our criteria by using the reduce method. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable, and we're going to call them hired students. These students will all get a job if they got a grade of greater than or equal to 70. So we just want to tell maybe Google or Amazon how many students in our class got the grades they were looking for. So what we can do is assign this to the value of grades, the name of our array, and then using dot notation, access the inbuilt reduce method in JavaScript. It is a method, so it has parentheses. And what we need to do is we need to just pass in here a callback function, okay? Now the callback function is expecting to receive 2 parameters. Number 1, when we're iterating over the elements of the array, we need to keep count of how many students have met our criteria. So we can call that total. Some people call it ACC for the accumulator, okay? And then of course we need to keep track of the item that we're iterating over in the array, and we will call that grade, okay? So we will call that grade. Then what we can do is have our condition, because remember, we're trying to see how many grades were greater than or equal to 70. And we know we can do that check with an if statement. So we'll say if grade is greater than or equal to 70, we're going to do something. We're going to enter the code block. And what we're going to do is we're going to increment the variable that we called total. And we know we can do that using the increment operator symbolized by plus plus. Now there's only one problem. We first of all need to actually return total, okay? So let's return the total. So if I come down here, I can say return total, that variable. But one key point you'll note is at nowhere here have we actually initialized total, that variable with a value. So what we can do is down here, just put a comma and put in 0, okay? And that is the last piece of data that we need to define, is what is the variable value for total. So we're just basically putting in a 0 here at the end to assign that a value of total. So now what we have is we have a variable. We've said let higher students be equal to. On our grades array, so the array name, you can invoke the method by using .reduce. We pass in the basically 2 parameters to this callback function. So see here we have our callback function, and what we're doing is we're having our total to keep track of how many students met our criteria, and we're doing our check, and of course we're initializing the total variable with a value of 0 down here. So what happens is we pass in the accumulator or the total and grade. Grade is just a reference to each item in the array that we're iterating over, or in other words the array that we're using the reduce method on. So what happens is for each grade the reduce method is iterating over each of these values and it performs this check. So if the check is true, we're adding 1 to the total. So the first time the reduce method begins iterating, we get 70. Is 70 that grade greater than or equal to 70? That evaluates to true. So what we do is, using the increment operator, we're adding 1 to our total variable. So now total has a value of 1. Okay. 65 does not meet our criteria. It's not greater than or equal to 70. Neither is 55 or 40. So therefore, we do not enter the curly braces, the if statement code block. We don't increment the total. 85 we do. 85 is greater than or equal to 70. So we use total plus plus. We use the increment operator to add 1 to our total. So 1 plus 1 is 2. Now total, the number of total students with a grade of greater than or equal to 70 is 2. 90 of course meets our criteria. So again, that will be 3. Unfortunately, we have a batch of students who do not get a grade of 70 or higher. So none of those basically meet our criteria. Therefore, we don't increment the total variable. And finally, our last student got 73. I said at the start there was 5 students. Have I missed one? 1, 2, I missed 75, apologies. Okay, so basically what it is there's actually 5 students who are going to meet our criteria. So if I now say refresh and go down to Google Chrome and refresh, well, I didn't log out to the console, my bad. So let's just log out hired students. Hired students. And now let's have a look, and we should see 5. And we get 5. So the great thing about the reduce method is you can iterate over an array of values and check to see how many, in this case, students got a grade of greater than or equal to 70. We could, of course, be more strict if we want. We could say, okay, we actually want to see how many got a grade of 75 or higher, and that's going to reduce now to just 2 students because only candidates with scores of 85 and 90 meet our criteria. And I noticed there I said the word reduce, no pun intended. So if I just refresh now, we see here we now get a score of 3. What the hell? Ah, sorry, I forgot about you. 75 as well. Okay, awesome. So basically 3 people get a grade of 75 or higher. Maybe the economy slows down a bit, so they don't need to hire as many candidates. So we could actually change this now if one of the tech giants wanted to. We only want to hire candidates with a grade of 80% or higher. And if we refresh, and we see there now we only get two candidates or 2 students who got a grade of 80% or higher. So that is the reduce method in JavaScript. The key point about the reduce method is it returns a single value. So we saw that here, for example, we're only now getting 2 students, so it's a single value. Basically with the reduce method, you must pass in a callback function, okay? So we see the callback function here, and basically what it's doing is it's doing our check for us. That callback function receives 2 parameters, or 2 arguments passed in, 2 parameters you need to define. The total, so we will always call that ACC, the accumulator, keeping track of how many you're adding to your total or your counter. And then of course you have the item in the array you're iterating over, and in this case we called it grade because it is an array of grades. And then lastly, of course, you must initialize your counter variable or your total or your accumulator with a value. So I just set 0 here at the end after the comma, and then what we did was we just essentially just logged out the returned result to us from the reduce method to the console, and in this case we get 2, but if we were to lower that back down to be, let's say 70, then I believe we saw previously that we hire 5 candidates, 5 students got a grade of 70 or higher, okay? And we see here a single value has been returned to us, just the number 5. Okay, that's awesome. Thank you for your attention. That is the reduce method in JavaScript. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Okay, so in this tutorial we're going to cover the find method in JavaScript. So how you can call or invoke it is on whatever array you're looking to iterate over, use dot notation, and you can access the find method. So how it works is when we call or invoke the find method, we're going to call back in, we're going to pass in a callback function, and the callback function is going to fire for each element in the array while we're looking for some sort of condition. So what the find method does, it returns the first value or element in an array that meets our search criteria. So imagine, for example, one of the tech giants wants to hire the first person in the class they see with a grade of, let's say, 80% or higher, okay? So it doesn't matter that this person here got 90% and they got the highest grade. The tech giants come in and they just say who got a grade of 80% or higher, and the first person they see that meets that criteria, they say you're hired, come with us, and that's it, it's over, okay? So how this would work is if we're searching for 80% or higher, 47 is not greater than or equal to 80, either is 11, but this person here, 89, that is the first score that meets our criteria, so they're hired, okay? So to prove this to you, what we can do is we can say let hired student, so we're only hiring one person who meets our criteria. So how we can find this person is on the array we're iterating over, called grades, use dot notation, and you can access the find method, okay? And what we're going to do is we're just going to pass in here a callback function, and that is going to fire for each item in the array, okay? Well, really it's just going to return the first criteria, but you know what I mean. So we could call it item, but what we're going to do is refer to each element in the array as grade, because that's what they are. And all we're going to do is just return where the grade we're iterating over is greater than or equal to 80, okay? So what will happen is, and then we'll just log it out to the console. So what's going to happen is the filter method runs on our array that we've invoked or called it on. So we've called the inbuilt find method on the array called grades, okay? And what we do is we pass in a callback function. So the callback function is going to fire for each grade, okay? So the first time it runs, what it's going to do is it's going to say, okay, is 47 greater than or equal to 80? Well, 47, okay, is that greater than or equal to 80? That evaluates to false, okay? So that number is not returned to us in this variable. So then the find method searches the next element of the array, 11, okay? Does 11 have a value greater than or equal to 80? Well, that is also going to evaluate the false. But then the next time it runs, it comes across 89, okay? Well, is 89 greater than or equal to 80? Well, that evaluates to true, okay? So because that is evaluated to true, what happens is we are returned that value. So 89 is returned to us, and it is stored inside of the hired student variable, and then all we do is log that out to the console. So 89 was the first score that met our criteria, i.e. it was greater than 80, and because that returned a Boolean true, then the element in the array 89 is returned to us, and we store it in the variable called hired student. So if I now save and refresh and go to the console, we get 89. Awesome. If you were to change the criteria, so for example, make it that we hire the first student with a grade of, let's say, 90 or higher, well, what's going to happen is 89 no longer meets our criteria. It would in fact be 90. So if we just save and refresh, we should see here that we get 90. So really what the find method does is it is searching the elements or the values of an array. It is trying to find one that matches your criteria, and the first element of the array that meets the criteria is returned to us, okay? So when we were looking for someone with a grade of, did we say greater than or equal to 80 or 85? I think it was 80. Even though 90 was a higher score, and even though 87 also is greater than 80, because the person who got 89 was closer to the start of the array, maybe they're sitting at the nearest the door in the class, so when the tech giants come in, it's the first person they see. The whole key point about the find method in JavaScript is it returns the first element in an array that meets your search condition. In this case, finding someone who got a grade greater than or equal to 80, and grade is just a placeholder, just what we call the parameter. Grade is just a reference to each item in the array called grades. Okay, awesome. Thank you for your attention. I'll see you in the next one. That was the find method in JavaScript. Hey friends, and welcome back. Okay, in this tutorial, what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you about method chaining in JavaScript, the idea that we can chain different methods together. Okay, so method chaining. So for example, we could use, for example, the filter method on the array of heroes down here, maybe filter out just to get the heroes who are in the Marvel universe. And then what we could do is map over that array and then do something with it. So the key point about method chaining is you could do something with an array, use one method, but then chain on another method and do something else. And what you'll notice is that we can actually make the syntax of this quite short. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to first of all use the filter method to iterate over the array of heroes and just return any hero that is in the DC universe. Then what I'll do is just log them out to the console. Then what I'll do is I'll store them in a variable, another array, the heroes we've got back from the DC universe, iterate over those and just return out using a template literal, you know, the hero is awesome and they belong to a certain universe. And then what we'll do is we'll actually do that with method chaining, and I'll show you how the syntax is a lot shorter. So that's what we're going to do in this tutorial. So we might just say let we'll do it with Marvel. So say let Marvel heroes be equal to heroes. So heroes, this array of heroes, an array containing objects. Using dot notation, we're going to use the access the filter method, okay? And we know with the filter method we need to pass in a callback function. And what we're going to do is just get a reference to each object in the array that we're filtering over, and we'll call that object hero. And remember, the filter method will return heroes to us. So what I want to do is just want to say return where the hero that we're iterating over, where their universe is strictly equal to the Marvel universe. So basically, remember, we saw previously with the filter method that if the condition that we're testing for evaluates to true, we add the element of the array we're iterating over to our new array. So for example, is Batman part of the Marvel universe? No, he's not. That evaluates to false. But Thor and Iron Man are. So when we filter over those, that will evaluate to true. And same with Captain America. And essentially what will happen is they'll be pushed into the Marvel Heroes array. So now if I just say console.log Marvel Heroes, we should see that we've gotten Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America. Let me just show you this. We see here Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America. Awesome. Now, what I could do is take the Marvel Heroes and then map over them. So what I could do is I could say Marvel Heroes, okay, dot map, and what we want to do is we want to iterate over each hero that belong to the Marvel universe. So we know we need to pass in our callback function, the function that's going to run or fire for each element in the array we just saw in the console. So we got to get a reference to each hero. We'll call that hero. And what we want to do is we just want to essentially return a string for each hero, but I'm going to use a template literal. So I should have said we're going to actually return a template literal. So using the backticks beside the number 1 on your keyboard, we know that we can embed variables. So we can just say the hero name. So we'll say hero.name is an awesome hero, and they belong to the, and then using the, remember with the template literal, using the $sign and the curly braces, we can access the, basically we can embed variable values into a string, or more specifically template literal, and they belong to the hero.universe. So what we should see here now is basically we're going to be logging out when we log out Marvel Heroes, we'll see that, Thor is an awesome hero and they belong to the Marvel universe. Well, it's just actually going to say they belong to the Marvel, so we just add universe there for that to make sense. So now if I say console.log Marvel Heroes, let's have a look. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes. We get this new array, and did I not log it out to the console? Oh, my apologies. I didn't store that in an array. So Marvel Heroes, yeah, I haven't actually returned that. My apologies. So what I want to do is we want to say we'll call them awesome heroes. Awesome heroes be equal to awesome heroes, and then we'll log out that array. Awesome heroes. My bad. Apologies. So just to recap, what we're doing is we have an array of heroes. We've all the different heroes from the various universes. When I say universe, you've got DC Comics, Marvel Comics. So what we're doing is we're filtering out to get back all of the ones from Marvel. So Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America. Okay. Then what we're doing is on that array with our 3 heroes from the Marvel Universe, we're iterating over each one of those and just returning that the hero name is an awesome hero and they belong to that universe. We store it then in the variable awesome heroes and logged it out to the console. My apologies for not, I'm getting a bit hungry, so I'll have to make some food after this. But we see here, for example, Thor is an awesome hero and they belong to the Marvel Universe. Iron Man is an awesome hero and they belong to the Marvel Universe. And Captain America is an awesome hero and they belong to the Marvel Universe. So we're just basically returning a string for each one. But you notice that this is how much code I wrote, and then I logged it out to the console. So is there a way we could actually make that more concise? Well, there actually is, and you can do that with method chaining, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to write out that code again, but this time I'm going to use method chaining. So what I can do is I can actually make this code more concise. So I can say let Marvel Heroes be equal to, okay? And we're going to use filter. So it's heroes original array dot filter. And what I'm going to do is, once again, we're going to pass in the callback function, okay? So we're going to iterate over each hero and do what we did the first time. And what we're doing is we're just going to return essentially where the hero universe is equal to Marvel. So use the code we did above. We're going to say return where hero.universe is strictly equal to Marvel, okay? So that's what we're doing there. Now, instead of, basically doing what we did here, I want to map over the Marvel heroes and store it in a variable. What we can do is we can actually just chain on the map method right here. So instead of taking Marvel heroes down here and then mapping over it and storing that new variable, we don't need to do that. We can just use the map method right away. So what you do is you just say dot map. And now we can do our map method here. And remember, the map method, again, will take back in, it's going to take in a callback function as an argument. So we'll call it hero, okay? The 2 methods don't have access to each other, so that's why I can say hero here, use hero as a local variable there, and then hero again here for map. And what I can do then is just do our original code, where I can say return. We'll do the template literal. Sorry, wrong button. What we're going to do is we're going to return hero.name, what do we say, is an awesome hero and they belong to the hero.universe, and then add the word universe at the end, just so it makes sense. Okay, so now what I've done is instead of writing out all of this code, I've just wrote this code. And what you can do is put your semicolon at the end there. So you notice that I don't put a semicolon at the end of the first method, in this case the filter method. So that's what we did up here when we wrote the code. I know it's commented out, but we have our semicolon there to basically end that statement, and then we run another piece of code. There's no semicolon there, okay? Now, if I log out Marvel Heroes, we should basically get the exact same thing. So Marvel Heroes, tell you what, I won't log out anything. Let me just save and refresh and just clear the console. So let's do that. Console is now clear. And now let's log out console.log our Marvel Heroes. Okay, and then I want to show you that this works and how to make it even more concise. Okay, and we see here, we get our array, okay? So Thor is an awesome hero, so is Iron Man and Captain America. And the cool thing about this is we've actually used method chaining. We did something on the heroes array, we filtered over it, okay? We wrote our code here, so we have our first callback function. So we're writing our filter code, filtering out over this array of objects and only returning those in the Marvel universe. And then what we're doing is then we're mapping over and basically just returning a template literal. Now, to make this more concise, you'll notice that we've only passed in one parameter to both callback functions. So the first thing you can do is delete the parentheses there for hero and also delete the parentheses there. So we know what arrow functions we're allowed to do that. So if I save and refresh, our code should still work. So we get no errors, that's cool. But we can make this even more readable. What we can do, and I'm not crazy, is we can actually, suppose you could say, put or scoot down the filter method onto a new line. And what we can do is just delete that space there, bring all that up to one line, okay? Just do that again. And so you notice that we have the semicolon ending within the code, but for the end of the filter method, I'm just going to put a space there and then call the map method. And what it can do is basically just delete all of that up like so. So this might look crazy, but you'll notice here we're able to put the filter method on one line, okay? Filter method on one line and the map method on another line. So if you wanted, what you could do is you could put the dot there and then delete the dot there just so they look the same. But I actually prefer, what I like to do is put the dot here. So dot filter and then dot map. And if I save, I should get no errors there in Visual Studio Code, and that's still working. So what we're now doing is we're saying let Marvel heroes be equal to heroes, okay, this array of heroes, but on this line here, we're filtering over this array of heroes and returning only the heroes that belong to the Marvel Universe. So Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America. Captain America, let's try that again. And then what I'm doing is on the next line, I'm then using the map method to iterate over what was returned to us and then just return this string. So, you know, return hero name is an awesome hero. We'll delete and they belong to that universe. It just makes it a bit very long. But if I save and refresh, what we're doing is basically on this line, we're using the filter method to get the Marvel heroes. And then what we're doing is we are using the map method to return essentially a template literal. Basically, a fancy way of saying a string with a variable inside of it. So if I just save and refresh, we see here we've basically used two different methods now. And what we've done is step one, we've got the Marvel heroes back, and step two, we've created a template literal. We've said Thor is an awesome hero, Iron Man, Captain America, etc. And the really cool thing about the ability to chain methods together is you'll notice that we actually did the filter method on that line, and then we did the map method on that line. And if I just delete all of the comments here, just so you can see the code and how concise it is. And notice again, I didn't use a semicolon here. Okay, I did not do that. There's no semicolon. We're going straight onto the map. It's almost like doing this, you know, heroes, but it is like doing this. It's like heroes.filter, run this code, and then .map, run that code. But as I say, you're able to put the filter method onto a line by itself, and you're also able to put the map method onto a line by itself. Okay. If I put a semicolon there, you notice then I start to get an error. So don't have a semicolon there. That would end the statement and you get an error. So if I save and refresh, hopefully everything should still work. I believe it will. Awesome. Okay. And yeah, that was method chaining. Basically, method chaining means we can chain array methods together. So that's the first time we've done that in this course. So that's awesome. Really what we did was we used the filter method to iterate over an array of heroes and just return the ones in the Marvel universe, and then we used the map method to iterate over what was returned to us and then just create a template literal. So I'll leave that tutorial there. That was awesome. Get some practice yourself and see if you can do it with the DC universe. But I'll see you in the next tutorial.